just because somebody is a Democrat doesn't mean, obviously, that they're anti-America.
Of course it is. 100%. 100%. And if you don't start to get that into your head, Jonah Platt, then all the Jews are going to be in big trouble. Because
I agree, but I don't think that's just because you belong to one political party or another means you're anti or pro-America.
So
that's a little broad for me.
You don't think, wait a second. Are you a Democrat?
I have traditionally voted Democrat, yes.
Did you vote for Harris?
I did.
All right, thank you for coming on. Let's take a short break. I'll be back after this.
This is Trump backer Sid Rosenberg.
You know how I know I'm a great American? Not only because President Trump tells me so all the time. He tried to hammer me on my Mamdani cheering 9/11 comment, and I wouldn't have it. I won't make that comment if you're not taking pictures with terrorist imams, with Hassan Piker, with Mahmoud Khalil. It's not as if I don't have a mountain of evidence. And that video surfaced again last night, 2 years old, where Mamdani just eviscerates the NYPD, compares them to the IDF, brave, courageous Israeli soldiers. The evidence is overwhelming. If this was a court case, Mamdani would be found guilty.
He is an out-of-touch bigot.
Whoopi Goldberg comes on TV on Friday, or even Tom Suozzi, the Democrat politician, and they seem pretty sincere being upset about Charlie Kirk. I don't care, because in the past, it's been their rhetoric that have gotten people like Charlie killed.
Who's very, very deep in the Trump cult.
Whether it's Bernie Sanders, AOC, or this moron I'm watching right now, Cory Booker out of New Jersey, they don't want it to work. They would much rather their own people suffer, just so they can say, you see, that is America in 2025.
This, my friends, is flat out nonsense.
Taking a knee is one thing, and I understand a teammate who was a vet recommended that, but how do you possibly explain away the pigs on the socks?
Whoa. There's no excuse for that.
Okay.
Nobody explained that away. I certainly never condone that. I tell people this all the time. Like, for example, when people talk about defund the police. Oh, you didn't hear that from Stephen A. I'm calling 911. Why the hell would I want that? I'm calling 911.
Right.
You understand? I'm not. The hell with that.
And this is when they attacked Colin Kaepernick. It was abysmal. Sid has quite a history.
No.
Page 70. Serena shocked by racist heckler.
See, I personally stayed away from that for your benefit.
I was on an airplane.
He would joke about Venus and Serena Williams getting heckled because he would state on the air the following quote. One time, a friend, he says to me, listen, one of these days you're going to see Venus and Serena Williams in Playboy. I said, you've got a better shot at National Geographic. He'd add that Venus and Serena were too masculine looking and said, quote, I can't even watch them play anymore. I find it disgusting. They're just too muscular. They're boys. He then called Venus Williams a, quote, animal. In addition, when Spike Lee wore this to the NBA All-Star game, Sid Rosenberg went off.
This little Spike Lee shows up to the NBA All-Star game, or one of the events. I don't know exactly when he wore it, wearing this pro-Palestine outfit. What a scumbag. I would go to a Knick game now, and I'm not going to encourage any violence, but somebody would probably have to stop me from not running up to Spike Lee and just knocking his ass out. Yeah, I said it. That's right, I said it. Spike Lee is a little He doesn't like white people. He doesn't like Jews. If you're black, you're cool. You know, if you're Tracy Morgan, you're cool. You're cool.
And it would only get worse. With Donald Trump on his show, Sid Rosenberg called Doug Emhoff, the husband to Kamala Harris, a, quote, horrible Jew. Trump would agree. Birds of a feather, y'all. From Media Matters, former Governor Andrew Cuomo asked conservative radio host Sid Rosenberg if he could imagine Zohran Mamdani as mayor during 9/11. And Rosenberg would respond, quote, he'd be cheering. Cuomo, then running against Mamdani, responded, that's another problem.
There's no reason to believe right now, as sad as it seems, this guy's not going to win.
Curtis has a very difficult battle. The fact is Republicans don't fare well in New York. Got to go back to Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg and Governor Pataki. That's a long time ago, Brian. And this guy's taking these boroughs by storm. I mean, it's not like he's just showing up. The enthusiasm for this guy is through the roof. Now, I agree with Scott. It'll come down to Mamdani versus Sliwa, but a betting man would have to take Mamdani in that. Cuomo and Adams will eat each other alive. Mamdani versus Sliwa. My heart wants Sliwa. New York should want Sliwa. Right. But right now, there is no logical reason to believe this animal, he's an animal, is not going to win.
Just last month, he went to Iwan's hate site to label New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani a, quote, jihadist and a, quote, radical Islam cockroach. It was meant to persuade the president to end his surprisingly chummy relationship with Mamdani.
What do you think of Sid Rosenberg? He used the term cockroach. I know your police commissioner had dinner with him.
So Muslims in this city, for almost as long as we have been in this city, have had to deal with those with power and platform dehumanizing us. And to be called animals, insects, to be called a jihadist mayor, to be called a cockroach. This language is both painfully familiar to me as a Muslim New Yorker, but also as someone who was born in East Africa. And it is difficult to hear. It is also, there's also a reminder that the silence that often greets this kind of bigotry, this kind of Islamophobia, is what allows it to fester. The temptation to treat it as politics as usual. And I want to be very clear that I have far more urgent work in front of me than indulging the provocations of a man who trades in outrage and frankly fears the city that we are looking to build, which is one where every single New Yorker who lives here can call it their home. I am not ashamed of who I am. I am not ashamed of my faith. I am not ashamed of being the first Muslim mayor in the history of our city, and there's no amount of racism that will change the way in which I lead or the commitment that I hold to each and every New Yorker in the city.
That is one incredible answer. By the way, Rosenberg was rewarded for kissing Donald Trump's feet, and I would even argue giving them a massage. He was appointed to the Holocaust Memorial Council. That is a major yikes. And the latest? Rosenberg tweeted, just when you thought things couldn't get worse, we found out today that Mr. Met is a raging anti-Semite. Does any of this surprise me? No, of course not. Because when you are of this ilk and you are a pro-G-sider, when you gloat of talking to the president over and over and over again, all I see is Colby Covington with a New York accent who's bald and from that area of the country. That's it. That's all I see. Just a hateful, despicable individual who, by the way, Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner, was pictured out with him at a restaurant. What? Sid Rosenberg represents some of the worst internal feelings that Americans have, where they are living in yesteryear of wanting to have this shock jock-like syndrome. And really what it shows is just how terrible some of us are in this country. How we are not accepting, how we live in fear constantly, and how we really try and push others down, mainly those who don't look like us. Sid, this is a melting pot of a country. It's what makes this country absolutely beautiful. But I do find this. The fact that he has to wake up every day with Zohran Mamdani as his mayor, that is the silver lining. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYT Sports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.